Yeah, this is a very standard, Bible Boys exclusive review here of a Joe Lara style landing the plane where you just didn't quite get it.
Oh, didn't quite get it, unfortunately. Got it in the air just fine, but oh, that landing. Welcome to Bible Boys, a podcast where two ex-evangelical siblings and an ex-Catholic non-sibling watch Christian media and either praise or condemn it. I'm Aaron.
And I'm Michael.
This week, we tackle rural cults and shaky cameras in The Last Exorcism. Before we ask the question, what if The Exorcist was just, slightly worse? Please be sure to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, like and comment on our video, and follow us on Twitter at The Bible Boys. Michael.
I think slightly is generous.
Yeah.
Just want to start off the jump from saying that.
Yeah, I think it's going to be pretty clear how we felt about this film. Josh is unfortunately very busy with real life work stuff, so they can't make it. But you know what? I think they they dodged a bullet with this one. I don't know, Michael. Just up top, how did you feel about The Last Exorcism?
So, important context, I first watched this 12 years ago when it came out in 2010. And I had a very different experience. The found footage genre was kind of recently having a thing. It was this and Paranormal Activity. And actually over lockdown, I went back and watched Paranormal Activity. And I left similar to how I left this going, oh, it's not even kind of scary. And it just uses a lot of, trends and other horror. Basically, it feels like if you look up TV tropes and looked up exorcism and just put them into an AI, that's what this film is.
Yeah. So I tend to like found footage because I kind of like the style of it. I think it's a fun to be hey, you're in the moment, you're watching things. But to be fair, the only found footage film I've watched that I can really just say off the top of my head is Cloverfield, which was, I want to say, a 2008 monster movie. And Cloverfield kind of worked because that was right when people were starting to get iPhones, and it would make sense for somebody to start. Actually, I don't even think the guy in the film was filming that on an iPhone. I think he still had a regular camera, but tapping into the same vein as Paranormal Activity, which is you set up a camera and you follow these people around and you see what's going on in the moment, and it's you're there. This one, I think this one is very much just it's trendy. Let's do horror, and I get why found footage is kind of ideal for this. Blair Witch Project, right, is probably the most famous example. That unfortunately I haven't ever seen, but that makes sense, right? It's a bunch of kids going out into a forest to see something spooky, right? The shaky camera adds to the realism, right? And it also allows you for for you to do the camera work where it's you turn and all of a sudden something crazy happens. And I just don't think this capitalizes on it at all because it is a very convoluted premise from start to finish.
Right, they tried to do too much. To be totally honest, the plot is simply girl in rural Louisiana is possessed. Man who is a reverend is I don't believe in God anymore. I just do this to make people feel better and take their money. Oh, wait, there's an actual demon. Ending with some Rosemary's Baby shit where it's it was a cult all along.
Yeah. So what I do with all.
I mean, that's the plot.
Yes, you're not wrong. We'll go through beat by beat, but I read the summaries because for the spooky season, I read plot summaries for these films going in, so I know when to be afraid. That's a thing I've always done. I am not ashamed of what I do. But I read this and I was okay, that makes sense. It's a little straightforward. I guess we'll see how it plays out. And then it played out exactly like the Wikipedia summary said. And I was oh wow. So there was just the whole last 30 minutes of this film is wholly unnecessary, and it's already a 90-minute film. It's just like,
Yeah.
So we'll talk about it, but this one might be a little bit shorter than we're used to.
Yeah, like, audience, even my fun facts are kind of limited. I think I have 2, maybe 3. Um, so we begin our tale in Louisiana. We're following Cotton Marcus. He is a reverend, and he's like, yeah, my son got sick, was cured by doctors, and I thought, thank doctor, my son is better, instead of thank God, and that's why I'm an atheist.
It is truly some God's Not Dead level conversion. It's like, I believe fucking Professor Radisson from the 2013 God's Not Dead more than this guy, who's just like, and then, because God couldn't save my wife, I turned to Satan, aka not being religious anymore.
Right. And so Marcus gets a call about this family, and he's like, yeah, I used to do exorcisms. I was a child preacher, but like now I still do them, and it makes people feel better. I'm not a doctor, but I do help people.
So I'm going to try to give this as generous a read as possible. And I'm just like, okay, so let's start with the fact that he was a child preacher, right? Like, okay, so that's why he's interested in, making sure that kids are protected and safe. Like, and this comes back earlier because like he talks about how, people get hurt when they try to do exorcisms, right? He talks about how somebody like got suffocated during an exorcism. He's like, I just want to make sure that, this doesn't end with a plastic bag wrapped around someone's head. So like, okay, there's something going on here. Like maybe he is really motivated by keeping people safe, and that's why he's like, okay, I'm gonna look into this girl Nell, this one last job sort of. It really is just like one more case before retirement. Yeah, I just gotta cash in my pension.
Well, and like, I don't know, it is something. He really is like, I'm gonna go help, but really he's kind of doing like the Goop of exorcisms.
Yeah, it's just like, this is how it really works. It's still a scam though.
Right. So his call is that he goes to this house in rural Louisiana, and this boy is like, where are you headed? And he's like, oh, to this house. And he's like, yeah, my advice is to make a U-turn, go back to the highway, and drive back where you came from. And then he proceeds to throw rocks at the car when they drive away.
So I was scared like maybe 2 times during this film. The first time was this, and it was like, yeah, a loud noise just happened when you weren't expecting it. You got me, folks.
I didn't jump once,
yeah,
which is just a shame.
Yeah, it's disappointing. I like Caleb. I think of all the actors in this film, yes, he might be the best. I guess Nell, the woman who plays Nell, does a good job. But who does Caleb play? Caleb Landry Jones is actually his real name, which is very funny that they did the Office thing of giving him his real name.
Well, so is Louis. And so is Eris.
Oh, you're right. Okay, great. They're just like, it's fine. We'll use your real names. Who gives a shit?
Yeah, but not for everyone.
Not for everyone, which is very funny. But like, I liked how he, kind of came off as like a creepy young man in rural Louisiana. Like, I think that's a fair like arc. It's certainly an archetype of just like, oh, it's like the backwoods hick who's got a lot of weird stuff going on, and you don't want to get too close to him. I think he did a fine job of doing that stereotype, and I thought he was pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, he's the one that I found most entertaining on my screen.
Sure.
Like, no matter what he was doing, I was invested. Mm-hmm. It's a shame they didn't utilize that so much. Mm-hmm. But, we'll talk about the journalistic integrity of these people making this documentary, but mm-hmm. they really do make it more about them mm-hmm. as this goes on, which is a big no-no. Shouldn't do that.
Yeah, they get way too involved way too quickly, and that's no good. But I think another thing I want to hit, because this film takes place in allegedly Ivanwood, Louisiana, and like, they talk when they're getting directed to the house. They stop and talk, and they visit the people, and they make clear like they're like, okay, these people are, you know, very easily manipulated. They're very easily, you know, they buy into these crazy stories. There's a part where they stop and talk to somebody. They're like asking for directions. They want to like see like, oh, how you know test the belief of these people. What will they believe? And like, so they're talking about this cult that, you know, maybe happened like a couple of days ago. They find out that, you know, there's like a temple and everything, you know, there's something where they're feeding human souls to the devil, you know, and then he's like, oh, where's the UFO landing site? And then they're like, okay, yeah, well, the UFO's landing site is just over there. So he's like, yeah, listen, like, so the person who delivers the information about the cult is not to be believed, you know, this is one of these just people who will believe anything. So that's unfortunately the gun on the mantelpiece. And I think it's,
Yep.
So here's the thing right, you do have to set up stuff, but you do have to set it up good. And I don't think this.
Yes.
If you're gonna do this, where you get a narrator that you don't believe, you have to do something more than just be like hint at this. And they never reinforce the fact that there is a cult.
No.
Ever again until the twist at the end, which is just a terrible, awful twist. I hated that this is the only thing. It really sucks because one, it's just like, you know, these fucking backwoods hicks, they'll believe anything. They love talking about the UFO landing sites. I
would almost rather it be like actual aliens, like
in 10
surprise,
Cloverfield Lane, another
it.
great film in the Cloverfield franchise. Spoilers for that film, sorry. But like,
honestly, okay, I have to say this is a rare moment of us overlapping. I also think those films are pretty brilliant.
Hell yes, finally. Oh God, thank you for validating. I know if you like something, it's like, yes, it actually is good. That makes me feel better. And then one last thing is that like, just like seeing the rural area, like rural Louisiana, you know, the backwoods, or, you know, backwoods quote unquote area, like these big, you know, plantations and farms and bayous and such. Like, there's a game that came out this year called Norco, that also takes place in like rural Louisiana. And that's, I don't think it's a game that would work for our podcast. I would love if we all played it, but like, it did take me 6 hours to play, and most of that was reading. And like, I had to look up a guide and everything. So like, I think that's a bit of a time commitment, but like, if you want a story that actually explores spirituality and the intersection of like rural, you know, like living in a world that where corporations have taken over your, you know, your country, like literally poisoning your water and also like trying to explore what faith means in that context. Just play Norco. It's a great game that I highly recommend. But yeah, I think that there are ways to portray rural areas that have been historically exploited, in much better ways. And this film just does not get at that at all. And it's very disappointing.
It's so, you know, I'm glad that you called this a cash grab, like, and, you know, really leaning into what's trendy, because it doesn't really feel like this film is all that interested in doing any of the things it sets out to do. And I'm like, okay, no one's making you make that a plot point.
Yeah. You didn't.
You could just do it well.
Yeah, listen. I guess Deepwater Horizon probably was that's also 2010. So like, I don't think they're actually cashing in on that, but still, like, it's it's dumb. It's bad. It sucks. Let's let's get to the house.
Yeah, so we get to the house, and he does a like fake diagnostics on Nell, where he's like, you know what? Looks like you're possessed by Avalon. And now, audience, if you're like, Avalon, what's that demon? Well, this actually is a demon. So this brings up one of my fun facts. This is actually more commonly known as Payman or Paimon, who is the same demon in the Hereditary film.
Oh.
And fun fact on this film's impact is so great that it doesn't even exist on the Wikipedia page under Paimon. Instead, Paimon is only mentioned in the film Hereditary, and that's the only film he's credited in. So, You know what? I infamously don't like the film Hereditary, which
Mm-hmm.
is like the most off-brand thing about me.
Mm-hmm.
Go watch that instead of this.
Wow. Yeah, listen. You recommending Hereditary over this is pretty rough. Yeah, listen, I like the thing he does where he we get introduced to the dad whose name is Cotton Marcus. No,
That's
nope, that's the
the
guy. That's the
preacher.
preacher. It's Louis, right?
Yeah.
Louis Sweetser is the dad. Okay. And he, we get his backstory. He's like, their mom died of cancer when she was very young. When they were all very young. There's his two kids. Caleb is revealed to be the son of this guy. And Nell is the daughter. And she's like, what, 14, 15, or 16. She's 16. And like, so they talk about how, I feel like they talk to the preacher beforehand.
It's first, it's because they talk to him after she comes to his motel room.
Okay. I don't even have it in my notes. I should have. That's disappointing.
No, it's like pure chaos how this film goes down because so much happens, but yet nothing really happens.
Yeah. So, but basically, we get the fact that Louis, is a man who, because his wife died, he is so like distraught by that he had to he starts turning inward, and like really getting interested in his faith, and he becomes very conservative in his faith. And the reason I was asking about the preacher earlier is because they'll eventually go to this preacher and be like, hey, what's going on like this, and the preacher's like, oh yeah, well, after if their mom died, the Louis wanted to homeschool them, and he's like, oh, I don't think it's good for the kids to be all by themselves and not interacting with everybody else. And that's like one that turns out to be a lie, because apparently they're going to parties or something. But like it also shows that, like, okay, they want to position Louis as a very typical conservative, radical, right? That he gets even more radically conservative than the people that are going to these churches and these Baptists. I assume they're Baptists. But like,
I did too, but I couldn't tell if that was my own bias coming through.
yeah, I just not enough ritual, frankly. There's not enough incense, right? The fact that it was all, there's not the preacher's wearing a shirt with like buttons on it, right? He doesn't have a collar.
Yeah.
But like, yeah. So that I liked the bit where he was talking about Abelum, because like when he's doing all this diagnostic stuff, he is showing Louis the book, and then he just flips to a page, right? And when he is talking, like I didn't catch what he was saying, but I don't think he was speaking Latin. I think he is just like mumbling, like doing like a fake mumbo jumbo sort of deal. And like he's just like, oh, okay, and then he's just like, this is Abelum, and oh, this is what he does. Oh, he's a very bad demon. He's like a snake. What he does is he wraps around the soul of this person, and the only way you can get him is the only thing that'll release him is death. And like it is kind of nice that like that's how it ends up being the death is the only thing that will stop them, I guess. I don't know that they paid that off very well. I know that they paid it off, and that Louis is like, okay, well, you said it. The only thing is death. So he gets his gun and he tries to kill Nell later. But like, they set up a lot of stuff, but like did not execute it in a very good way, and I'm disappointed by that.
Yeah, this is a very standard, Bible Boys exclusive review here of a Joe Lara style landing the plane where you just didn't quite get it.
Oh, didn't quite get it, unfortunately. Got it in the air just fine, but oh, that landing.
Yeah, that was a rough one. So we see that she's not really possessed. And let's see, where are we at? They talk to the pastor. Okay, so then the next morning, or that evening actually, Nell is in Marcus's motel room, and she is like catatonic. She's like not speaking. She's really clearly not doing well. And they're like, okay, let's take her to the hospital.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And here's where the conceit of it starts falling apart for me. One, because they do catch footage of Nell climbing up the stairs to the thing, right? Like I'm remembering this correctly, right? Like they actually get footage of her running up to the Reverend's room.
Mm-hmm.
Which is bonkers, right? That they're just like, oh, we're gonna film this girl running.
No, they're filming Reese running.
Okay, yes, that makes more sense. Thank you. Okay, I was gonna say like that
because
that's
I'm
stupid.
thinking of something later. Yeah,
no, you're right. I think we're both thinking the same thing.
Yeah,
there is something that's really stupid later, but yeah,
there's lots of really stupid.
Please continue.
Don't worry. So they take her to the hospital, and the next day, that's when they talk to the pastor. Louis takes Nell home, and then we find out that she cuts Caleb's face open with a knife. And so he chains her to the bed, and he asks Caleb what's happening, what he's trying to say, and Caleb writes a note that's like, don't leave her alone with him. And so they convince Louis to take Caleb to the hospital, and they will stay with Nell, which just seems logical too.
Yes.
Because if you're still under the impression that this guy's an exorcist, even if he's not very good at it, isn't that who you want in charge
of your demon wrangling? Yes.
Yeah. So Marcus is like, Nell doesn't need to be restrained. This is mental illness. This is not anything like this. And then we get my favorite scene, which is where I actually started being like, yeah, we're going to turn this ship around. And that is the doll scene.
Yes. Okay. The doll scene's actually like pretty good. Because like they just find her, like they're just like, they just hear something at night, right? They start hearing voices, and they're like, "There's two people up there," and then like they come into the bathroom, right?
Yeah, they see Nell walking, and they hear her talking rather, and she's drowning something, and we don't see what, and we hear a baby crying, and it's like this really ominous thing, and it's just a doll. And it is so cool. And this is where we see her artwork, which shows like all of them being murdered like really grotesquely. It shows a cat like really bloody. But it's like actually a cute little picture of a cat with just like blood on top of it. So it's like if Nell drew the cat and then the demon took over and drew X's over the eyes and then blood.
Yeah.
It's very strange.
Yeah. The drawings are weird. At this point, the cameraman is like, I want to leave. And I was just like, yes, dog, you are right. You're the only person with a brain in this stupid film. Because if I was staying at a house with a woman that drew me with my head chopped off, I would also leave. I'd be like, well, I'm not sleeping in this under the same roof as you, ma'am. Like, I'm sure you're great, but I gotta go.
Yeah, that feels like exactly what I would do too. I'd be like, no, thanks. Even if I didn't believe it was a demon.
And here's the thing. This is the point where also like we see these drawings, we see the cat, like there's a cat with a drawing, and then like it's basically like right after this, right, that she takes the camera.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like literally instantly after she takes the camera, and we watch her kind of bludgeon this cat to death.
So this part is very stupid.
Yes.
I think there is
unnecessary.
Yes. It is unnecessary because listen, it shows that like her drawings are gonna come true. So cool. But also I think there is a place for the antagonist to take over the camera in found footage films. It's not in the middle, I don't think. I think it's really gotta be
not Act 2.
If it's gotta be maybe at the very like right at the very end of Act 2 where all is lost and like you see something, but like not here when they're just being like, we're still building up this character to be scary. And what's the scariest thing of all is somebody taking the camera and walking into a barn and filming themselves beating a cat to death. That's so scary. And like, listen,
Yeah.
neither of us love to watch, violence being done to cats, but like, even this was like, it was a bowl of jello. Like, it wasn't even, I guess I'm glad it wasn't realistic, but like, it was just all like, what are we doing here?
Yeah. And so we kind of glossed over, because the film kind of glosses over it. Nell is pregnant.
Yes, they get a call from the doctors, right?
Yeah, and they're like, don't give her this medication, just give her some Tums. And then basically Iris is like, this is incest, we gotta save her, which is kind of a wild thing to jump to.
Yes.
Just like, as if you're a filmmaker and this is one of the people you're filming, you should maybe like assume decency, like
it is
even if not good.
It's a big claim to be like, oh, this guy is clearly, doing a sex crime on his daughter. Like, listen, if Louisiana has mandatory reporting laws, there are ways to go through and mandatorily report. You can do that, but you are a filmmaker. You are not an action hero. Like, and that's not to say that I think that the Louisiana Department of Child Safety is like, an organization without flaws. I live in Indiana. Ours certainly has flaws. But if you think that there's something bad going on with the kid, you should probably contact the authorities, not try to stage a fucking rescue.
And that's the thing. No one even thinks to do that until it's much, much, much too late.
And like, of course, like, listen, of course, this is a story. It's storytelling. Like, you have to, you want them to actually do this. But in real life, what you do is call the authorities. In a story, what you do is try to stage a rescue. But it is a very weird thing for somebody who is like a filmmaker to be like, okay, I'm not a filmmaker anymore. I'm a character in this documentary. And it's like, are we sure we need to do this?
Yeah, and basically from here out, Iris is a character in this.
Yes.
Which I find just very, as someone whose dream job was and continues to be news anchor, I find the journalistic integrity really lacking.
I mean, listen, this person is willing to, be like, yeah, I'll do an expose on the fakeness of all exorcisms. I think she's just like, whatever'll get hits. Like, listen, I know the exorcisms are fake. I wouldn't try to make a documentary about it though, because I know that there's people who are very invested in the exorcism industry. Listen, apparently the Vatican has 300 trained exorcists. I bet some of them are very persuasive.
If you're looking for a 301st, you know where to find me.
That's the title of my new book, The 301st Exorcist.
So they confront Louis about the pregnancy, and Louis's like, my daughter's definitely a virgin. She's very pure. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. And then when they insinuate that he did a sex crime, he understandably gets angry and tells them to leave.
Yeah. I mean, and the thing is, he's like, he's like, listen, Pastor, you told me that this is how demons get in you. And he's like, this is, he genuinely believes that she's been impregnated by a demon, which, like, listen, again, this is why you call the child abuse hotline. Because,
yes,
listen, there are people who are bad in the world, but also, like, I don't like doing this. I don't like being picky about storytelling choices, but like, this is the part where he goes and like he starts praying at the grave, and he prays for like an unnecessarily long time. But he also like basically straight up says like, hey, you know, he's gonna kill his daughter because the pastor said the only way to, you know, release the demon's hold on them is death. And like, again, this is why we have to be careful about extremism. Is because people take these sort of things very seriously.
Yeah.
And like, I don't love the, you know, there's a juxtaposition where it's like, well, it was actually demons the whole time. And it's like, this is why you call the authorities, right? Because there are some people who like, you know, whatever happens, if, you know, their daughter did get pregnant and they don't approve of it, and they think there are people who generally think it's demonic, right? And might kill their kid. And like, we've done enough sad episodes that to prove that's true. You know, it's just weird. It's just, I'm being picky and I hate it, but it was just such a strange choice.
Yeah, I mean, and you know, it's clearly they have a series of strange choices in this film, and I feel like the characterization of Louis is one that I find tiresome very quickly.
Yeah, like here's the thing. Louis is a type, right? He's an ultra conservative rural man who is very devout in his beliefs, and also they're like, and that's why he, you know, sexually assaulted his daughter. And because, you know, backwoods Hicks love incest, right? They're all backwards like that. And like, obviously that's a choice that, you know, Irene is making. And like, but like I don't like how deep they lean into all of the worst stereotypes about the South. And then they're like, oh, but it was demons actually. And it's like, yeah, I guess, but nobody was like, maybe that's an illogical choice. Like, maybe both of these things are illogical. Like, making it an incest thing really bummed me out. Famously,
it was depressing.
I famously don't like any stories that have to do with you know, sexual assault, and like, this was just like, this is just a bad narrative choice all around. But yeah, Louis could have been a different character, and they just leaned into all the worst stereotypes and made him uninteresting.
Shall we talk about Exorcism number 2? The Last Exorcism 2. Except that's an actual thing, and we're never going to talk about that on this podcast.
Yes, I did notice in Ashley Bell's IMDb, she comes back again in The Last Exorcism 2. I guess spoilers for The Last Exorcism 2. This one is the real one, I swear, this time. But like...
Except it's not.
Except it's not, because there's like another one, right? It's a trilogy.
A third.
God, horror movies are great. We should get into making horror movies, because you can make 1 million of these fucking things and no one will care, as long as people will show up even if they're dog shit.
Exactly. This is what I've been saying. We should make a horror movie.
All right. We got to get that Patreon started.
So we have a new exorcism. This one's for real though. And Abelum is like, fine, you know what? I'll let Nell go if you, Cotton Marcus, can be quiet for 10 seconds. But there's a twist, because, you know, demon's got a demon, and every second he's going to break one of Nell's fingers. This is where I thought, okay, 10 broken fingers is not excellent. It's preferred to a demon being in your body.
Yeah. And like, listen, I get that, like, right, his whole thing is protecting kids, and I think it's a fine character choice. But there's no tension in slowly counting down to 10, right? 10 is far too long, right? You have to make it 5, right? If you're going to do the finger thing. It's just...
It's right there. You have 5 on one hand. It's easy. What was this demon going to do when they got to 8?
Yeah, like at 8, at that point you're bought in. It's the fucking sunk cost fallacy. It's like, at this point we're so far in, I'll break the other fingers myself. Like, come on. But like, it is so funny that he can't even go past 3. He's like, please. And then everybody's like, bro, come on. But yeah, at this point Abelum is like fully taking control of her, and it's stupid.
Yeah, and asks Marcus if he wants a blowing job.
The fact that this is plot relevant makes me want to die.
Yeah, it is maybe the worst thing. And Marcus is like, aha, I got you because I'm a smart man. A demon would know the sex act. So you're
Demons
not
love oral.
possessed, apparently, textually.
God.
Uh, and so then he concludes Nell is not possessed. She's just disturbed and dealing with shame. And Nell is like, oh my God, I lost my virginity to this boy named Logan. And Louie's like, no, you didn't. And so then they decide to meet Logan, in which Reese really wants to say the F word so bad.
It's
Um,
it's good.
because Logan is like, I met her once at a house party at the preacher's house, 6 months ago, and I'm gay, so that baby's not mine.
Mm-hmm.
And they're
Mm-hmm.
like, obviously this kid is gay, which Eris says, and I'm like,
Yeah,
Eris,
yeah.
why don't you finish that one up? Finish it.
Iris is actually, it makes sense now that she leans into the worst stereotypes of everybody she meets because that's just who she is, based on the two scenes that she inserts herself in.
Um, and so then they're like, wait, something's afoot here if the pastor said, I haven't seen you. And mind you, audience, we are like swiftly approaching. This is like the last 10, 15 minutes
Yes,
of this
yeah.
film.
Like the explanation of like this exorcism like comes at minute, I want to say like 70. It ends at minute 70, and this film is 80 or 88 minutes long. Like the rest of this is all just like plot and lore and explanation of the backstory that didn't show up in the first two acts of the film. We've met this preacher
So now let's
once.
go. Yes. But now we have to go back to the house.
Mhm.
And then we find it empty and it's covered with 666 and pentagrams, but also anarchy signs.
Yes, I was going to say, the Wikipedia calls them countercultural symbols, which I think is the funniest way of putting it, because it's really just like, well, what would a bunch of cultists do? Yeah, let's draw the nuclear sign. That's cool. It's just like, we had no idea how to end this movie.
Nope. Nope. And so then they follow Sound of Voices into the woods and they see a large fire. They see the cultists all around, led by the pastor. Surprise! Something that we've done zero work at is shocking because it, quote, subverts expectations. That's for all you Game of Thrones nerds out there who know exactly what I'm talking about.
I've heard House of the Dragon was okay. I don't watch Game of Thrones, but...
House of the Dragon is the best show on television right now, unfortunately.
Okay, you haven't watched Andor though, but I'll listen.
Yes, I have.
Oh, okay, all right. We'll have words later.
So yes, unfortunately. So Louis is bound, gagged, blindfolded, while hooded figures are praying. Nell is bound to this altar. She gives birth to the reason that we didn't see the baby in Rosemary's Baby, actually. Mm-hmm. That's what she gives birth to.
Because actually looks more like a bowl of Jell-O than the cat.
Yes.
It's very funny. God, this whole scene makes me so... I just like completely lost interest because like he's fully wearing like a red robe with this silly hat. And it's just, there's just like a bunch of like kids out in front of a bonfire. And it's like, where did all this come from?
Well, also like I keep bringing up Rosemary's Baby and it's because I have to unfavorably compare this to a film that's 40 plus years its senior
and does this better.
That's you never want a film that came 40 years before you to be like so much better than you that I can't stop making this comparison. You want it to be like on the same level.
The thing is that Rosemary's Baby is about characters and this is about spectacle, and it doesn't do either but well. Unfortunately. Right, Rosemary's Baby is all about the psychological horror of, your spouse being one, very ambitious, and two, lying to you, and three, also a secret satanic cultists. But like, they build that up. They make it really, they like allude to it. They make it very strange, and they kind of give you hints. They kind of like show like, okay, why is this happening? So when the horrible thing does happen, like you're ready for it, and you're like, okay, I've been built up to believe this. And this one, it's just like, what if there was a exorcism that was also found footage, and the camera was doing wild, shaky stuff, and that's probably enough, right? What, like, we'll do a shot of a lady twisting her head around real funny. That'll do it. And it's like, and we're not going to do anything with characters.
No. And so they throw the gelatin baby into the fire, which makes the fire grow because, they summon the demon.
Mm-hmm.
Marcus is like, oh, I'm a Christian again. I'm grabbing my cross and rushing towards the fire.
Wild ending.
And then Aris and Daniel run and are brutally murdered in the way that Nell's drawing showed.
Mm-hmm. They say, what, like, kill the bitch or something stupid?
Yeah. I was hoping that at least, like, Daniel's death, because it was on camera, would be, like, interesting or scary, but they made it last, like, just a little too long to be scary.
No, they didn't. I don't even think they did the thing where, like, the camera drops and they see his head, right? Like,
No,
that
no.
would have been, like, completely fine, but, like, they just had him fall over. Like, Caleb shows up at the very end with a bandage over his face, has a little sickle, does a slight cut, and then he, like, and then it just freezes for a couple seconds, and you're just kind of waiting, and then he falls over, and that's it. And it's like, you're not even going to do the head roll thing? Like, why foreshadow
Not
a decapitation if you're not going to do the head roll thing? We talked about this in The Omen literally last week. The Omen at least, like, did a fun thing with it. Like, it was corny and it was silly, but at least they went whole hog.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think that I would be, like, pining for The Omen, because I
Seriously.
liked it, but I didn't think it was the best
Yes.
film, even of the era that we watched.
Yes.
But yeah, I missed it.
Listen, The Omen was fine, but, like, it was miles ahead of this thing.
All right, so that's basically the film. I have some fun facts.
Please.
So you know the scene where Aris gives Nell the red Doc Martens that never come up again?
Oh, yeah, that was a cool scene. I like that.
You know, that came up because of insurance reasons.
Excuse me?
The insurance company wouldn't cover Ashley Bell for exorcism scenes if she was running around barefoot.
Oh,
So
they're gonna have her
the
be
entire
barefoot,
time
of
she's in
course.
Doc
I
Martens.
fucking hate this stupid fucking show.
However, Ashley Bell did all of the bends and contortions on her own. They used no special effects because she has hypermobility.
Oh, that rules!
Mm-hmm. And, like, as someone who's got kind of, like, mild hypermobility, I'm like, God, this could have been my future.
Oh, Michael, there's still
if
time.
I really, like, I can, like, do all sorts of weird things with my arms, like, all of that.
Michael's turning his head completely around. The boneless wonder.
But yeah, no, I never learned how to do that. A crew member's brother was a real exorcist on set.
Oh, did he provide, like, was he a consult? Like, is this right?
Nope, he just hung out.
You know what? That rules. That's great. Good for him. I want to be that guy.
And then there was also, I love pointing out whenever yellow wallpaper is used, because that's one of my favorite short stories. It was used in Nell's bedroom. The walls were painted yellow, and it's just like a little symbol for female hysteria and kind of calling attention to that, which would have worked better if A, she was actually possessed, B, she wasn't actually possessed, C, any of that actually mattered.
Mm-hmm. Like, listen, you can use the yellow wallpaper if it's a scene where a woman is trying to tell the truth and no one's believing them.
Mm-hmm.
You can't do that when the woman is being possessed by a demon, and, like, everybody else, the people who are ostensibly trying to help her, are drawing the wrong conclusions. The thing is that this film also, like, is just trying to do so much and is like just taking all these swings and not hitting them. Like like with the stereotypes, like the stereotypes are fine if you either subvert them or like lean into a real truth, but also show how like people, just because people fit a stereotype, that doesn't mean that, you know, all people are like this. Like you can, I think that working in stereotype is okay as long as you center like the humanity underneath that. And I don't think that was ever done here. Similarly, right, like when you that fact that they wanted her to be barefoot makes me want to fucking throw up because it's so stupid. But like,
It's
right,
so dumb.
that sucks. But like, again, like the whole thing about Manly, right, the pastor cult leader, he was talking about how like, well, he was just disappointed that they pulled her out of school because he didn't, you know, he used to like, well, homeschooling's bad. You know, I don't want people to do homeschooling because I just feel like they need to be around their peers. A thing that I believe, and I think Josh, you know, as an educational professional would also probably stick up for, and I suppose you would also agree with, Michael. I think we're all, listen.
Actually, I'm taking a radical pro homeschool approach on this podcast.
That would be really funny. But like, I think we're all pretty like, listen, there are reasons to homeschool your kid, but you should really, really try to get them in a school with other people so they can have that little bit of independence. But also, this film inadvertently makes an makes a pro homeschooling argument because the person that she got exposed to, the demon cult leader, this is what QAnon is telling people right now, right? This is that like they're gonna get fucking transgendered and they're gonna get turned into demon vessels at your public high school, right?
Where's the director's cut that Caleb comes out in? Because that really is, they're one single choice away from literally making a QAnon argument.
Yes, no, oh my god, you're so right. There's definitely like an extra 10 minutes where Caleb is talking about how like, you know, my teacher at school, she's married to a woman and she says that men don't always have to be men, you know?
Yeah, oh my god.
And then she made me drink this donkey's blood. It was great. This was a bad film. We try not to do these, frankly. Sometimes we try to do them.
No.
Actually, that was wrong. I always try to make us do bad films, but I try to make us have bad films that have something to laugh at that are stupid and fun. This one was unfortunately stupid and not fun. You know, sorry, folks. We can't. Listen, Michael usually has a pretty good batting average. Listen, if this is the worst thing we watch in spooky season, I'll be happy.
Well, Aaron, that brings up a wonderful point. And we are actually following our own advice with this point. And that's what's up next week on spooky season has already been alluded to in this very podcast.
Oh.
We're watching the Blair Witch Project.
Oh, fuck, no! There we go. Fucking gave myself enough rope to hang with.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, are we watching Cloverfield? No.
I had already decided it before the podcast because I haven't seen the others, and this one I have seen. And because it had been so long since I've seen The Last Exorcism, and this is the kind of film we were left with, I didn't want to trust that. So Blair Witch it is.
I think it's a safe choice, but ooh, man, I'm not ready for an actually scary movie. You've been very merciful this spooky season, and I'm grateful for that because the Conjuring Gauntlet last year really fucked up my Sundays. I was like, I can't believe I have to spend another 2 hours where I'm just gonna be fucking scared shitless the entire day. But it's fine. I can do one for the good of the podcast.
Next year I'm going to split it because that's my favorite is when half of them are super duper scary and the other half are just like a little scary.
I think that's fair. Well, Michael, should we rate this film?
Should we rate this thing? Yeah.
Let me get my stupid Popes list.
We were remarkably in unison with asking each other and then resigningly going, yeah.
Josh's spirit came into us and said we have to rate it.
I do feel like they just like popped up and said, excuse me.
I just felt something. My phone moved. I'm going to give this Pope number 248 out of 266, and that is Pontaine.
I am going to give this the last exorcism I will ever watch.
Until we do a deep dive into the other two franchise movies in the franchise at a later date. That's when Bible Boys sells out. Once we start doing Bible Boys remakes, that's when you know. God, Michael,
we get those Patreon bucks.
Michael, when we are not shilling for trying to mass market our podcast to the general public, where can people find us on the internet?
Well, I'm about to be a full-time college student, so don't cut anything out. I might start shilling full-time on the internet, but you can find me on Twitter at Michael's Diamonds.
I am Josh can be found at Green History on Twitter, and I can be found at AaronSXL on Twitter, where I tweet about tabletop RPGs, health policy, and writing. I just had a video come out today on my YouTube channel. That's at AA Voigt on YouTube if you are interested in tabletop RPG reviews. I do another podcast with my friend Layla. That's at Mortified Pod. We just reviewed the latest in the Locked Tomb trilogy, Nona the Ninth. So if you're kind of the person who likes spooky season, if you like, necromancers and ghouls and weird Catholic shit, check that out. It was a difficult day for me because I was feeling sick when we recorded, but also I think we did have a fun time talking about the Locked Tomb trilogy. But if, like us, you were disappointed that our first entry into the
found footage
genre was disappointing, just remember that it is okay to cry because even Jesus wept. We'll see you all next time.